Join me as I delve into the conclusion of this captivating season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, filled with heart-pounding action, emotional moments, and unexpected twists. From the gripping performances to the stunning practical and visual effects, this finale puts a cap on a brilliant season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I'm going to be discussing the character arcs and the impact on the overall storyline, and the lingering questions that will leave us fans eagerly awaiting Season 3, starting right now. Greetings, nerds and fellow Trekkers. This is Will, host of Cine Nerd Presents Blerd Trek and co-host and producer of the Cine Nerd podcast with the host, Sarah Belmont. Thank you so much for joining me as I'm going to be discussing the Season 2 finale, Episode 210, Hegemony of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. This episode was written by Henry Alonso Myers and directed by Maya Villarreal. I'm very excited to discuss this episode with you. But before I do that, let me give a quick spoiler warning for folks who haven't watched the episode. Stop now, go watch it, and come back. We get a wonderfully set up cold open where the crew of the Cayuga, with Captain Patel, Chapel on her way to her fellowship with Dr. Corby, are on a colony right outside of Federation space. The colony and the Cayuga come under attack, and the USS Enterprise is dispatched to investigate. When they arrive, they learn that the colony has been attacked by the Gorn, and then Captain Pike takes an off-the-books mission to rescue any survivors from the colony and from the Cayuga. So my overall thoughts of this episode is that we've had many shifts in tones, genres, and this episode is no different, where this week we do have this sort of push-pull of a heavily influenced episode by the Aliens franchise, and we do get our Monster of the Week episode. So this episode is definitely personal for Pike, and given that he and Patel have finally sorted things out in the relationship, and he is now taking an off-the-books mission to rescue her and also the survivors of the Federation colony. This episode really does have many things going for it, which does make for a very memorable season finale, in my opinion, given the drama, tension, humor, and yes, even a cliffhanger. Some of the highlights of the episode I also thought was that we see Pike very willing to go off the books and go on this unauthorized mission after Admiral April made it very clear to him for him not to do anything that would shake up a very tenuous situation between the Gorn and the Federation. But we see Pike basically disregarding that and trying to figure out a way to make things right in this episode, as far as trying to save those people that are left behind on the other side of the demarcation line that the Gorn have set up. So some of the other few things I did like about this episode, that it did not kill Patel off in this episode, as we saw some foreshadowing from the musical last week that, typically that trope of when couples figure out things, bad things happen, but they did not do that as of yet with Patel. They did not. One of the things I did also like was they did not cut away to show that she had survived the attack. So whenever we got their reunification there in the city, we were just as surprised as Pike, and so I thought that was a very good touch. And then I did like that they didn't try to pack all of this story into the season finale, because it's a lot of story here, and I'm glad they did spread it out to be a cliffhanger to resolve it in the third season whenever we get that. So those are my overall thoughts, and I'll get into more deeper detailed analysis here in a second. But before I do that, if you like what I'm doing here on our Cine Nerd Blerd Trek, hit that like button, and also make sure to subscribe so you never miss a podcast of Cine Nerd. Also, please, all throughout, I really, really encourage you to leave comments on what I'm saying. Give your thoughts about the episode. I love to hear them, and I do get back to the comments. So with that, let's turn to some of the details of the episode. So now turning to some of the details of the episode, as I noted before, the true driving motivations here is the relationship between Pike and Patel. And I have to say, once again, Anson Mount is truly one of the MVPs of this season in his portrayal of Captain Pike. And also, I have to say, Melanie Scrofano really did have some nice moments in this episode this week as well. Typically, we've usually only seen her on the other side of view screens and those types of things. We've had a few interactions with the two of the characters face to face, and especially here on the back end of the season as they really start to sort their relationship out. But it was a really nice follow-up to the musical episode last week where Pike does note that he didn't start busting out the song like every 10 minutes. And it was a good way to sort of acknowledge how their relationship is starting to mature as the probably one of the true couples of the series. And it's nice to see that with Captain Pike, we get those type of relationship that we also saw in earlier seasons with Captain Sisko and Cassidy Yates and Michael Burnham and Book. So nice to see that our leads don't have to have a solitary life as far as relationships. But we also get in this episode, once the Gorn do attack the colony and Pike decides to take that off the Book's mission, we get some moments where we see Pike very hopeful and dealing with not giving up hope that she is still alive. That's a nice moment between him and La'an on in the little burnout police station there once they got to the colony. We also do see him trying to keep things light. For example, before he even went on the away mission, talking with Erica about finally being able to get on an away mission, which is something that she's been wanting to do all season. So we have those moments, and then of course their jocular interplay there on the shuttle, as far as him being a former test pilot and her flying through the debris field and all those kind of things, and the moment that we saw way back when we got to see the teaser trailer for season 2 with him just kind of stunned there, like, whoa, that was quite the trip. But so we got those fun moments in the episode. We do get the moments where at the end, what I really like to hear your comments at the end of the episode, whenever thing has taken place, they've managed to work out how to get back to the ship with Scotty's help, and also the assist from Uhura and Pelia and Spock. They get back, and then we have the end of the episode where things are blowing up all around the Enterprise and stuff, and we have a moment there where Admiral April, Starfleet, sends a priority 1 message: do not engage, and to withdraw. And in that moment, and I would love to hear from you all what you think. Did he freeze, or was he pausing to really assess the situation there? Because, and this is really a testament to Anson Mount's great acting and really conveying so many things in that moment, because his face does harden, but then also he really, when I watched it real time, I thought that he froze. But I've talked to some other folks, and some people have thought he froze, and other people felt that he was just really tactically seizing up and sizing up the situations. So love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Did you think it was a situation where he froze before cutting to be continued, or was it a situation where he was just really sizing up the situation that they were in? Moving to Patel, I thought this week we really got to see her do several more things, as I noted before, as far as her interactions with Pike, her interactions with Chapel with the cold open when they were on the colony, the angst of losing her command when we do find out that she is indeed alive, and most importantly, when we got that Ripley moment there when they were trying to retrieve the Hubble device that Scotty had created, and the Gorn not attacking her, and she and of course she understands why they did not attack her. And when we do finally get the moment when she pulls up her sleeve and we learn that she was indeed has been attacked, as an incubator for the Gorn eggs, and then when she does get back to the Enterprise and they're trying to save her, and of course there's a whole question of like, is Pike putting his crew at risk by bringing her aboard the Enterprise, given that the Gorn eggs could like rupture at any moment and start attacking them on the ship. And I would like to hear your thoughts on that. I really felt that she was, it was almost very sad and tragic that both she and Pike know their immediate futures. I mean, most of us don't know when our time is up, but in this episode, I mean, clearly we know Chris's future, but now, given that we know that the incubation period and gestation period for the Gorn eggs is very, very short, Captain Patel knows that she only has a few days or hours left, and having to come to grips with that. And so it's very sad parallels between her situation and Captain Pike's situation. So, that was one of those things in this episode that really like struck me as far as wow, this is pretty, something that I wasn't expecting in the season finale. So even though they didn't kill her off, they put in a situation where she may survive, but she may not. Hats off to the writers in doing that with setting up those parallels between Patel and Pike and their knowing their fates. Turning to Scotty, I've mentioned Scotty's name a couple times now, so we welcome him back to Strange New Worlds, and this is not actually the first time we've seen. It's the first time we've seen Scotty in Strange New Worlds, but at the end of season 1, we did get Scotty's voice in the alternate timeline in the season finale. Now, there was voiced by a different actor, and clearly we did not see him, but this time we do get Scotty, and he's played by actor Martin Quinn, who notably is the first actual Scottish actor to play Scotty. James Doohan was Canadian, and Simon Pegg, who's played him in the Kelvin Universe movies, is English. So we get that. And from the moment he opened his mouth, we were like, that's Scotty. I totally did. And so, but cool thing about it is not only from the voice, but just his actions. He's, of course, younger Scotty. Everything about him, from the trap that he set to the device on the shuttle and all the things that we know Scotty would do. And I really liked the way Quinn blended he made the role his own, but he took elements from the late James Doohan's portrayal of Scotty, and also from Simon Pegg. So it was, so we definitely, between the voice and all the mannerisms and stuff and the actions, we definitely knew that was Montgomery Scott. Plus, I like the running gag that they've had with Pelia and her former students, and of course now Scotty's her greatest student. And of course, I love the look on his face, like, oh my God, no, I'm not. But at the end of the day, I'm all here for bringing in TOS characters when the story makes it sensible to do so. I don't want a situation where they're just bringing it in just for like we're just going to have the fun moment. I want the story to drive it, and the story did logically make sense for Scotty to show up in this episode. And so, bring it on. I know the showrunner has talked about the longer they go and the closer they get to the original series time period, we may start to see other original series characters show up on episodes. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. If we should get more original series characters on Strange New Worlds. But again, and if we do, what are your thoughts as far as how should they be used? For me personally, I hope we do see more Scotty, but I hope it's like Jim Kirk, in the sense that it's a recurring status and not necessarily a regular status. So let's move quickly to Spock and Chapel. To me, this was probably the weakest element of the episode for me this week. Just to be candid, I do feel like we did get some nice moments for Chapel. I think Jess Bush has been just amazing this season, and she's done really fun things with that character. But I will say that the plot armor and the really stretching the suspension of disbelief with her being the only survivor on the Cayuga could have been dealt with a lot better to make it just not strain the suspension of disbelief quite a bit. for me as a viewer this week. I thought, turning to Spock, I think Spock and in particular Una had some really nice moments where, with Spock, dealing with some of the same things that Captain Pike was with his feelings of Patel. Spock feeling the same way with about Chapel, especially given how things were left between them after the musical. And he, with the big breakup, and then of course he feeling that he needs to apologize, just because of how he handled how he handled the breakup, and not having that opportunity to try to rectify things. So, I did like the fact that whenever, even though I had other quibbles with the episode, their relationship, well, other quibbles with, with sort of how the contrivances they went through to make this, him rescuing her off the Cayuga. I did like that they did not just drop the fact that about the relationship issue that they've really spent a lot of time on this season. The other thing too that I did have a little issue is, like, why was, out of a crew of 200 plus people, why was Spock the only one who could do this? Again, that's some of the, like I said, some of the contrivances that I think took this episode, down a notch or two for me, just because of some of those plot armor issues and some of the just sort of forced story contrivances that happened this week. But other than that, the other moments I did appreciate with Spock and Chapel. As far as the rest of the crew, well, Ortegas, again, we've been teased. We're going to get to Ortegas episode. Like, everybody else seems to have gotten their episode, but poor Ortegas. But that being said, I think we did still get some nice moments. And something that at first I didn't think about until putting together this review is how Boimler, during the crossover, noted that Ortegas is a war hero. And and of course, is it the Gorn conflict that he was talking about, or the Klingon War? But one of the things that this episode clearly shows is Ortegas as a very tactical savvy individual, in the sense of her coming up with the plan to use the debris field of the Cayuga to basically mask their approach to the planet, so that the Gorn would not detect them. So, that clearly shows her another skill set that she has beyond just being, I'm Ortegas and I fly the ship. I mean, she really is a seasoned tactical and combat officer that clearly Captain Pike seems to be an explorer, so he needs that those types of people like Ortegas and Lon to really help him with the military strategy whenever these types of situations come up. So I really like that aspect of the episode. And Benga, Lon, Sam, they all had relatively small parts this week as far as the episode. I think it was really good to see Sam and Lon, more determined now and not as afraid of the Gorn because of their experiences that they've had interacting with them from the first season, and also just Lon's background with being able to take out the Gorn doesn't have as the same feelings that she had before. As far as the visuals and everything, sound design and stuff, I have to say, as I noted at the outset, I really the practical effects in this episode sold it for me. That the Gorn was not CG. It was a mix of practical effects where you had a person in an amazing suit that they have constructed, and actually even down to the tail, which really gave a very menacing aspect to the Gorn. They actually didn't shoot the scenes on the AR wall. They actually broke down the bridge, redressed it, had people hanging from wires and stuff. And so when we had those fight scenes in Zero G, and also the practical effect of the Gorn complemented with visual effects, it really, really made it very effective and very believable. So hats off to the visual arts team and the practical arts team to do that. And the baby Gorn, again, were a mix of puppets, animatronics, and CG. So again, that there's nothing that beats that practical effect. It's just, at least for me personally. And so whenever I see that, I appreciate that and the work and the craftsmanship that goes into making those great practical effects to make it more believable and more tactile for me as a viewer. And also just from a production standpoint, the using the backlot there in Toronto to sort of set the Federation colony. Clearly, it was obviously for budgetary reasons, but thought it was a good way to just give the episode some grounding, and also makes it even more menacing when we get the Independence Day influenced Gorn ship appearing in the sky over that again real world practical set backlot that was used instead of being shot on again in the AR wall. It really it really did set the tone for the episode. So again, really did like that aspect of it as well. One last thing before I give my final thoughts on the episode. Saw Lon, Mbinga, Ortegas, and Sam get beamed up to the Gorn ship. And so you have to wonder what's going to happen with them, given that at least we know two of the characters are very safe in Mbinga and Sam. But with Ortegas and Lon, I hope they really don't do anything long term with those characters as far as killing one of them or anything like that. I think that would be very bad for the series, especially given we haven't hardly had any development with Ortegas. But also, I think it'll be interesting to see how Pike, with the cliffhanger ending that they had there, will he order the ship to fire on the Gorn, or will they come up with another technical way of trying to save them? So I would love to hear your thoughts on what you think is going to happen. We're going to have a long time to do a lot of theory spoulery and stuff, but very curious to hear your thoughts as far as what do you think is going to happen whenever we get the conclusion of this episode. Let me know your thoughts below. So turning to my final verdicts on the episode itself before turning to some Easter eggs, callbacks, and call aheads. Did think this was, again, despite my issues I had with the Spock Chapel storyline this week, with the sort of plot armor and contrivances, I did think this was a very solid season finale. Clearly, a lot of people have referenced Best of Both Worlds as far as the. I don't know if it quite rose to that level of tension for me, and maybe it's just my TNG bias with that particular ending, and it was and all, but at the same time, the cliffhanger and in television for season finales is a well-worn trope, and I thought this was an effective one. It reminds me sort of the end of Star Trek season 6 of DS9 with that cliffhanger in that series. So, but overall, like I said, I enjoyed this episode, and I would say I would probably give it four badgies out of 5. Let me know your thoughts as far as where you would rank this episode. So, quickly turn to some Easter eggs, callbacks, and call aheads. One of the Easter eggs that I've spotted in this episode was Ensign Appel. So I think that was named for the writer and producer of Star Trek Picard. The episode does start with Captain Patel with the star date of 2344.2. The USS Cayuga is confirmed to be a Constitution class heavy cruiser, which is why it looks so similar to the Enterprise. Pike notes that, as I noted earlier, that he is happy not to be bursting into song every 10 minutes, which is a reference back to the previous musical episode. When Pike's call with Captain Patel is cut off, if you notice, he's holding a little medallion that he got in the episode Among the Lotus Eaters. And so he was holding that. Patel also, whenever she was infected, mentioned Hemmer's being infected by the Gorn, and she recognizes his sacrifice in the season 1 episode, All Those Who Wander, which again adds such more depth and weight to what she was dealing with, as I noted earlier in my review. Pelia telling Una that she would have given her an A as a callback to Lost in Translation, when it's revealed that she gave the first officer the Enterprise a C interclass, which is, as I said, has become a running gag with their students. The title of the Gorn government as the Gorn Hegemony was first established in canon in the Star Trek Enterprise episode of Bound, which also was previously used in non-canon books and games. The In the Mirror Darkly episode notes that the Gorn can actually breathe in space. That was another episode from Star Trek Enterprise. So we do have some little continuity issues there between the series there. And the Star Driver, the ship that Scotty was on, had a Hubble K7C stellar assessment array. Of course, it's named for the astronomer Edwin Hubble, who, of course, the Hubble telescope is also named for. And Pernices Beta, as I noted earlier, was filmed on a backlot in Ontario, Canada. And it was originally built for the Amazon series Reacher, which, by the way, is a very great show. So if you haven't checked it out and you're a fan of Jack Reacher, go check it out. Those are all the ones that I spotted, but if you found any others that I may have missed, please let me know in the comments. So thank you again for watching my reviews of Star Trek Strange New World Season 2 this season. Really appreciate you doing that. I just want to remind folks that this review is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and is not a promotion nor promotional material for any other parties. Fully stand in full solidarity with SAG-AFTRA and the WGA. Hopefully, I know the WGA is back at the table with the producers on trying to work out a deal. So we do hope that comes to being. Speaking of which, I will be doing a recap of the full season next week and giving my ranking of the 10 episodes that we had this season. So be on the lookout for that when it drops here on our channel. And also some other news items from the Star Trek universe. So with that, please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd and at SNN Blerd Trek. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Threads at scene_n_nerd, and on our website at www.scenenerdpodcast.com. Our main show drops every Friday. We're off this week, but we'll be back at the end on March. We'll be back on August the 24th with a new episode reviewing Star Wars Ahsoka. And be sure to rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Live long and prosper.